In today's video, we're going to be exploring graded exposure further and hopefully introducing you to some further imaginal exposure before we move on to some actual in real life exposure. So let's get straight into the video. So in this video, we're going to be furthering our graded exposure. We've already covered habituation and the hierarchy of distress. And if you remember rightly, the hierarchy of distress was this idea of this list that gave us specific situations that you were fearing or increased levels of anxiety if we expose ourselves to different situations. This video is tailored around the phobia of driving and specifically driving on motorways. So your hierarchy of distress, hopefully we've covered this in therapy already, and your hierarchy of distress will give us some indications that maybe driving on a motorway at night may be higher up the list, and then further down the list, driving on minor roads or on junctions of motorways maybe slightly further down that list. We've already covered, hopefully in therapy, the idea of exposing you to the idea of moving on to driving onto motorways through the form of images and imaginal exposure. This exposure exercise is going to be very similar to that. We're not going to ask you to go onto motorways yet, but what I'm going to ask you to do in this video, in this exercise, is I'd like you to watch the next 3 videos for me, and I want you to, in that situation, I want you to try and immerse yourself in those situations. Imagine that you're driving on the motorways. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to trigger off some anxious reactions to this, some uncomfortable feeling. Now the idea of this is if we gradually expose you to this and you repeat this exercise over several times, you're going to hopefully begin this habituation. Your brain's going to start to learn that I can cope with this. So this exposure exercise, I would like you to watch this video for me at least 3 or 4 times. If you're seeing me weekly, I'd like you to try and do this 2 or 3 times. If you're seeing me every fortnight, I'd like you to do this at least 5 times. And like I said, I'd like you to imagine that you're actually exposing yourself to this situation. Imagine that you're driving on these motorways. These videos I've created are varying in speeds and in situations, and I've randomized the motorway, so I'd like you just to imagine that you're on this motorway and there's different hazards along the way. The speeds along this vary from very slow crawling along at 20 miles an hour to maximum speed of driving around at 70 miles per hour, so you'll get some variance in the speeds, very classically like you'd experience on a motorway. Now in previous exercises we may have asked you to collect some ideas or some thoughts that are going through your mind in those situations. I'd like you to do the same in this exercise. So what I'd like to do is imagine that you're driving on the motorway, record any kind of physical sensations you may be having, so it may be increased heart rate, it may be feeling dizzy, maybe feeling anxious. That's fine, that's good in a sense. I'd like you to just make some notes of that as you're going through this. And then I'd like you to experience the videos, and then after that I'd like you just to sit back, reflect, and just write down any kind of thoughts that will come into your mind. For instance, a typical example on driving on the motorway may be it's getting too fast, I'm out of control, I feel closed in, I can't escape. Whatever those kind of thoughts are. They can be absolutely random thoughts. Remember, what we're talking about in CBT here is that the thoughts, a lot of the time, the thoughts will drive the emotion, and especially the anxiety. It's our thoughts about the situation that will drive the anxiety. So it'd be interesting to explore those thoughts in our session that you experience during this exposure exercise. These videos last between 8 minutes, 5 minutes, and about 2 minutes. So I'd like you to watch all 3 of them. Relax after the videos, make some notes, and then the following day, maybe expose yourself to it again and re-watch this. And by doing this over several times, we're hopefully going to habituate the idea of coping with the anxiety in the situation. This is one rung on the ladder of building yourself up to working towards actually exposing yourself to real life situations of driving on the road. But before we get there, it's a safe environment for us just to collect some more data. So hopefully you find this video useful. You've got my contact details if you're in therapy with myself. If you're watching this from any other kind of source, please feel free to drop a comment and I'll see if I can reply to this and help you along the way. But this is mainly focused around people in therapy with myself at the moment, but hopefully this is helpful for you. Let's crack on and let's look straight at the videos. Take care, bye-bye.